This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on, Nat Caron of Nat Caron Photography. Nat, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. As I was saying in the pre-show, I have yet to meet you, so this is nice for me. But I've heard many good things about you. We've been watching your stuff, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you. So for the people who don't know, tell us about your business. What do you do, Nat?
So I own two companies. I own Nat Caron Photography that's been running for 21 years, and a brand new company with a good friend of mine, Kelly Letourneau, Oklahoma Media, which is mainly a digital marketing company.
Beautiful. 21 years.
Talk
about staying power. Goodness. So there's all the questions on the show have their purpose, have their meaning, but there's a few that really kind of reveal a bit more, and we're interested a bit more into it. Part of the whole marketing world that I'm in, the human connection piece is what drives me the most. Being able to speak and learn more about humans, our stories, what are our journeys like, the ups and downs, all that. So the next question really is about your story. And I like to make it a two-parter. I have the utmost respect for entrepreneurs because I know how difficult that journey can be to build something in your mind and then put it in reality, make it real, and carve your own path. So I would ask you, what led you to wanting to run your own business? As the only people that come on the show are entrepreneurs. So I bet they can learn a few things from that, as with myself. And then what led you to photography?
Oh, okay. Well, it's kind of all encompassing, I guess. My parents ran businesses as I was growing up. So I saw mom and dad working and running businesses. And I never really thought I was going to run my own business, to be fair. I went to school for advertising. I really enjoyed it, came out of it, didn't love the industry when I got into it. It was Bay Street, Toronto, and just a different world that when you grow up in Barrie, Ontario, it was just a much different world, especially in the 90s. So I came back to Barrie. I worked with a photographer here in the area. Actually, I should rewind. I was working in Toronto with some photographers, but they were all in the fashion industry, not necessarily my jam. And when I started working with this one particular photographer, he really taught me. His name was Dermot Cleary. He used to be in this area. Now he's in Toronto. And he really taught me about quality and understanding quality. My parents taught me about relationships and how to build relationships. So really, like, those two things came hand in hand. My father passed away when I was in my early 20s. And in that same year, I was pregnant with my first son and was a single mom. So there was a lot of non-structure, I guess. But what happened was this moment where I had taken this photo of my father before he passed away. And when I shared this photo, I printed it in a darkroom with the black and white and all that stuff. I had printed it off for a bunch of family members, and the emotion that they connected to it, because it was this photo of him laughing, and he always laughed, and you could almost hear his laugh in this photo. That moment when I heard them, kind of laugh at it, but then also sobbing, looking at it, made me realize how much connection can happen with this type of art and this type of art form. And I wanted to be able to start providing that connection in photography with others. So that's really my beginning of photography journey. And deciding to go off on my own was because I didn't have any other option. To be quite honest, I really needed something that was fluid in my schedule so that I could raise my son solo. Now, mind you, I didn't end up being solo forever. I'm now married and I have 2 more children. But at that time, it was, I know this sounds crazy. I feel badly that I'm sharing it in this way, but it was more about survival in a way. I had to make this work. I had to do this. But within a few years, I feel like the connections I started to create, and being at that time more in like the family and wedding industry, um, I really fell in love with sharing stories. But then because my parents ran businesses, and as I started to work more and more with businesses and seeing how photography, video, content creation can help businesses to help their business grow and see them flourish. Sorry.
Okay. Real world.
Seeing them flourish is what made me really want to dive more into commercial photography, which is, it was really fluctuating between the two for a long time, up until 2015. And then 2015, I was only in the commercial photography world. But I still miss the weddings. I just don't want to work weekends, to be quite honest. I worked every single weekend. I missed every single family event, every single family wedding, because I was photographing other people's weddings. So so that's what kind of got me to this point, where I really think that my journey starts with my parents and teaching me about relationship and understanding from the very early on that in my business, I need to make relationships. I need to network, which networking is I don't know. Do you network, Jeff? Like, do you enjoy networking?
I mean, it's kind of a cringy little, it seems like a cold word for me.
It does.
Just connecting with humans, whether it's fitness, whether it's personal, whether it's philosophy, whether it's business. I'm just trying to deepen those relationships, find the people that I click with. I do some counseling at a addiction facility on the weekend. I like bringing that up because I think it shows some things just outside of the marketing, but I call us like our own unique individual puzzle pieces. And my job is not to fit with everybody on this planet, but to go up, see if I fit. If I don't, I move on. And that's kind of my definition of networking.
Yeah.
Just meeting people and getting curious about other humans. I found that to be a great way to build very fulfilling relationships.
Absolutely. I believe that too. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. I love hearing that, Jeff. That's really, really cool that you do that.
So first off, that story was great. It was rich, that human experience. Something that I'm curious about is, why do you think a picture can evoke such emotion? Like, it's not moving. There's no written words, like in the traditional sense of a story. It's a still picture. What do you think?
Well, that's exactly it.
About it grabs up so much.
I think that it ultimately comes down to the fact that it is a still moment. There is somewhat of perfection in it, but also the opposite, which is like a rawness to it. That's why I think a lot of people don't like to be photographed, because they feel like you don't like it. They feel like they're like that one moment is going to capture and tell a story about who they are. But it can also, in that same light, it can actually capture the most beautiful moment of them. It can capture their true energy. It can capture their heart. And excuse me. And I think that's the part that people forget, is that when they're being photographed, if they really truly trust the photographer or videographer, if they're doing video, it's going to turn out magical, no matter what it is, because if they trust in them, they release the nerves. They start to calm themselves. They start to get comfortable within their own skin. Yeah. So sorry, I went on a tangent there.
That's what I'm looking for. I love hearing people go deep into their artistry. I was just finished up Leonardo da Vinci's biography, and I'm not a art in the traditional sense guy. Like, I like music, but I don't know much about it. I don't know much about painting and this type of stuff. But in that book, it's so dense with his experiences with his journal, and it kind of opened my eyes to this new world. And even if I never decide to pursue that thing, the respect in somebody's mastery. I just love hearing about it. Like, what makes it such a fulfilling pursuit? And so to hear you describe it from someone who's not in that world, I don't know. I think there's a beauty to hearing people create such things and have such a meaning behind it. And your point about if you have a good photographer and there's trust there, that's what has to happen to me. My last photo shoot, I stiff up immediately. So I said, you got to make like fart noises or throw rocks at me or something like that, like get me going. And she totally did. She was throwing rocks at me by the end of the shoot.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And so that's how we bonded there. But I think that's a great story. And, you said, I feel bad about this, but I did it out of survival. I think many of us humans, if we're being honest, there's a point in maybe multiple points throughout our journey, different chapters of our life, where necessity is the motivator, and it can be a hell of a motivator.
100%. I think adversity is so important. Not that I ever want my children to go through adversity, but it's really what builds their character and their values. Oh my gosh, I could talk about adversity all day long, but I really do believe that going through some sort of hardship is, I think if things come too easy, then you always think things are going to come easy. And then when they are tough, we don't know what to do with it. And I see this often with businesses that, I mean, we're going through a bit of a recession right now, and I'm seeing businesses go through some hardship, and it's really hard. It is really tough to watch businesses close and restaurants that I love close. But I do think that this is not the situation for everyone, of course, but I think that when things do get hard, we make a decision. What is going to be the new hard? Is this going to be the new hard where I close things and have to sell everything off? Or am I going to double down into my business? Yeah.
This is one of my favorite topics. I mean, I have a big part of that, what you were just describing, inked onto my skin. So I remember the importance of it. And we talk about this on every episode. There's a question that delves into the potential of moving through discomfort, challenges in some way. And I don't know. I think if your life is too easy, that there isn't an opportunity for growth. I mean, I believe the body and mind is built on adaptation. And I really only believe that through some level of stress, will the body even consider adapting. If it's easy and your body's in conservation mode, and whether it's food or your environment, whatever it is, it's par for the course. It's doing what it's supposed to do. But I think there's some level of force that needs to be applied to change. I mean, the muscle is a perfect example. I think the brain is the same thing. If you're not stressing the brain in some way, if you're not stressing the muscle or the bones in some way, then it stays the same or eventually degrades. So we talk about moving into discomfort a fair bit on this show. It's one of the kind of the first principles of my life. I've looked throughout my 37 years, what have been the most pivotal moments of my life, and there was always some level of hardship through it. And I think through hardship, we can provide ourselves the opportunity for growth. But like you said, we have to make a decision. I don't think it's a given. I think hardship can make us worse or go the other way. But if we choose, I think there is gold in that opportunity.
That's exactly it, though. You use the word choose. We choose. We can choose to be, I mean, gosh, we both know that we've had moments where we're like, I've had it. I've had enough, and I'm going to be the worst person right now. And I'm going to bitch and complain, or I'm going to, I don't know, have a drink instead of just like really dealing with it. For me, it's a cookie. I don't drink, but some people drink. And I don't know. I think that's exactly it. I think that word that you used is choose. We have choices every single day, and we can choose to really see what is the positive in this moment. I was just talking about this morning about these moments where I was complaining about some shoes that I was wearing a couple days ago. I'm like, they're just so uncomfortable. And then I saw someone without feet. And God.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. Yeah. Stop complaining about it, right? Those are those moments where you're like, I'm a horrible human right now.
The
I just
real human.
complained. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
you're
I
right.
mean, and you were talking about networking before, like, you know, I consider it just connection with other humans. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so interested in it. I've found such value in it because I have this tiny, tiny little micro experience of life through my own lens, which is the sum of my experiences, which are not vast. I'm one person on a planet that's been here for a very long time. So by learning from your stories and other people's stories and other people's perspectives and their hardships, a lot of times it results in a greater level of appreciation for what I have, a greater level of compassion and empathy for other people, and ultimately feeling much more connected with other people. I find there's much more similarities to you and I than differences. Wherever you are, maybe I, go over to India or Africa, and I, again, through those conversations, find, well, we're not that different, but from their environment, they've learned this. From my environment, I've learned that. How can we learn from each other, kind of thing?
Oh,
So I think
it's
really
good.
cool.
That was really, really good.
Thank you. So one of the big parts about the show is education. There's so much information out there. A lot of it's shit and it's thrown in our face, whether we look for it or not. Whereas if you go back 80 years ago, just getting information was difficult. Now we're bombarded with it. So how do people weed through the good and the bad? Hopefully some of the people that fall on this show can find some of that good. So when it comes to myths or misconceptions about your industry, there's a lot of photographers out there. I doubt many of them have made it through 21 years like you have and have the reputation you have. So maybe you can help teach us. There's people that have inaccurate information in their head right now. And though that inaccurate information is leading to suboptimal decisions. So if we can just clarify some of that information in a little bit, it can lead to maybe changing behavior, but certainly making higher quality decisions. Any myths and misconceptions that come to your mind that you could clarify for us?
Okay, well, there's a lot. So we don't have long enough to talk about all of them, but like the simple things are like needing to have the most expensive gear in order to be a great photographer. That's not true. You can make do off of a really simple $200 camera that you found on Kijiji or Marketplace, and you can still be a great photographer with that equipment. Coming from the client side, I don't feel like I deal with this, but I hear other photographers talk about how, somebody will say to them, I could have taken that photo. Then here's the camera and try, because it's not about just setting it up. It's so many other factors involved. So really those are like the two like technical myths. But the biggest myth I run into like emotionally, again, we were talking about before, is that people will come into the studio, and I would say it's a high number. It's like 80% of the people that come into the studio will say to me, I don't take a good photo. So I'm very sorry you have to deal with me today, but I don't take a good photo and I'm sorry. And it's like, that's not your job. Your job is not to perform for me. My job is to do a great job for you and make you feel comfortable enough to be photographed. We have great conversations in the studio, and that's what it comes down to. Like, I think that it's getting into these like deeper level conversations, and not that it always goes there, but it often does. We have these beautiful moments of conversation, learning about each other and an understanding. And that's where I think that I will build trust with my client. So as I think that goes for any business, though. I think that would go for a lawyer, that would go for an accountant. As long as you're building a trust factor there, that the more and more people feel comfortable working with you.
Certainly, especially when we are, voluntarily moving into an uncomfortable environment, like me with photography. It's like I am walking through this door vulnerable. So your trust is of the highest priority to me, to bring that level of discomfort down and kind of bring my, more authentic side out so that it can be captured. So absolutely, I would agree with that. Now, somewhat bit of my own selfish kind of curiosity here. We have a team and we're looking to get photos at some point. And we deal with a lot of different photographers. I mean, we have a magazine on top of our digital advertising, and that magazine. Each one has a photographer in it. So we've worked with a number of them, but I still know little of the process or little in the choosing process. So we have a team. We want to get our photos done. What should I be looking for? Like, how do I assess good from not as good?
Right. I think that, okay, well, everyone has to start with a budget. I 100% understand I don't fit into everyone's budget. That's okay. So start with the budget, figure out how much it is that you're wanting to spend. Look for a photographer who fits the look and feel of what you're trying to create. So review their portfolio, look at their Instagram account. And then the other part is learning about their personality. So for a headshot session, I don't necessarily do this, but for any sort of brand session, we get onto a Zoom call and we have a conversation about their goals. And I do think that with a session like yours, you should be having a good conversation with the photographer to find out if they understand your goals. Because, well, this is a perfect example. This morning I posted on Instagram a photo shoot from an interior designer. And the look and feel of what we created for her is so different than what I would create for another interior designer. Like maybe even polar opposite. We have a certain look and feel that we try to create for most of our clients, but this particular interior designer has what I would call a more like moodier, darker, textured feel. Mm-hmm. So that's how we edit them. That's how we shot it. And I understood that going in. I already knew that and understood it. So yes, there is a portion that goes into the photography and the connection, but then can they edit your images? That is a big part of this, Jeff. If you don't find somebody that can do the other process, this is the other part of the art form, which Becky's doing beside me right now. She's doing the other part. She's creating beautiful images and doing like the color grading and, like retouching and things like that are really important that go along with the craft. That's what I would look for in a photographer for sure. Those elements.
Beautiful. I appreciate that. That helps. And then when you're talking budget, so again, from my perspective, knowing very little about this industry, mm-hmm. If we get, we have a team of, let's say we bring 5 of us, our main 5, and we're looking for, this is for our business side. Maybe we get some personal photos during there as well. I don't know. What does that take? An hour, 2 hours? Should I be expecting $500? Should I be expecting $6,000? Like, is there The
answer is yes to both. Because
okay. So there is no like market value to weigh it against, to see it's really based on the photographer and what they bring to the table. Is there?
Well, I'll tell you why we charge what we charge, because we have a team. When they walk through the door, we're not trying to get them in and out because we have another session right away. We take our time with it. We also take our time with editing because you can't rush it. I'm not trying to produce something that's cookie cutter. So that's again what you're trying to take into consideration. But there's photographers out there that will do a session like that for you for $200. And then there's photographers out there that will do a session like that for $8,000. And it comes down to, one, the $200 photographer potentially may not be in business much longer. They're working for $4 an hour. So for every hour that I'm shooting, it's another 4 hours of post-production. So if I do a 5-hour shoot, that's going to be another 20 hours, 25 hours. If I charge somebody $200-$300 for 25 hours, I can't pay for the computers that we're using. I can't pay for the studio we're running. I can't pay for the equipment. What if my camera breaks? I cannot do those things. And right. My clients rely on me to be up and running. I can't pay for the vehicle that I'm driving. So you need to make sure that you're running your business sustainably, whether it's photography, whatever it is. You need to make sure that there's elements of cost marked into everything that you do, down to like making sure you take a couple weeks vacation. That's important. It doesn't seem like it because you're like, well, it's vacation. It is very important. That's what recharges you. So if you don't have 2 weeks booked or in your budget for the year, then how are you going to regenerate yourself in order to be able to perform well for your clients?
Yeah. Plus the living, right? I mean,
Living.
I think some of us think it's like a dirty word, profit. I mean, listen, there's a life I want to live out there. I'm currently living parts of it, but there's many parts left, and money opens the doors to a lot of those opportunities. It's the world we live in, this capitalistic society to a certain extent. And if you become very wealthy because you're good at your craft, that's a fantastic thing. I think it's one of the best things about the opportunity in the part of the world that we live in. If you are very good at what you do and you provide a service that provides value and has an impact on other people, and you can live the life that you want to live right down to the T, that's amazing that we can do that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you are a high-end business because you said this is why we charge what we charge. So are you on the higher end of that scale?
I would say in the area I am, but for clients in Toronto, I'm right in the middle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And are 5-hour shoots common? Because I'm thinking like, I don't even know if I could hang for that long. Like, can we get this done in 40 minutes, please?
Yeah. For your type of session, it's not common. I would say those are like 2.5, maybe 3 hours, depending on how large your team is. You said 5?
Yeah, we would probably bring 3 to 5 of us. The other parts of the team wouldn't be a part of it.
Right. So you're looking at 2 to 3 hours at most. I know that seems long, but we have coffee. We have tequila. So whatever you need.
Big part of my team's going to like that.
The tequila part.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need a little bit of tequila. We're really close to downtown. So if we need to like run and grab some food, we can grab food. But it comes down to the timing is about creating, right? So if we rush through this creating process, and I've seen this where a client will come back to me and say, I paid somebody X amount of dollars to do a photo shoot. They rushed me through it. It was 20 minutes long. And I'm really unhappy with the photos. And we do a 45 to 1 hour session here for a 1-person headshot session. It doesn't feel rushed. We're having contact. We're connecting with one another. And again, like that's what we're trying to create for you is the best photo of you. How am I going to do that in 20 minutes? You just got in the door, you just got changed, and you're in and out. There's no comfort there.
Yeah. Yeah. Good points. Good points. Takes time to create good stuff. About you, Nat, outside of business, start with something a little playful. I'd say this pretty much every time. I'm finding myself to be a broken record a couple hundred podcasts in now, but it's the truth. As long as it's truth, I'm fine with it. So I'm going to ask you what you do for fun. And most of our entrepreneurs come on and they've built something that's their baby. And I'm very thankful that many of them say, this is what I do for fun. But that's the easy answer. Mm-hmm. So I try to dive a little bit deeper. So I preface it now by saying, outside of your business, what do you do for fun? What puts a smile on your face now?
I enjoy yoga. That's my solo time. Very much. My family time is actually really special to me. So going for, which we do now that the beautiful weather's here, we go for a really long mountain bike ride every weekend when it's not mountain biking season, because we don't have fat bikes yet. We will. But we go for hikes every weekend. We take the dog out. The boys, I have 2 younger boys and I have an older boy who lives in Toronto. He's 21. So the 2 younger and then my husband, and we go out and I love it. Even this weekend coming up, this weekend's going to be Mother's Day. I don't know if I can talk about evergreen stuff. Sorry, it's not evergreen, but my husband knows Saturday is going to be a day for a huge long hike. We're going to go up north. We're going to probably go to Arrowhead, take our bikes. We're going to go and find waterfalls in different spots. And that's what I love. But I will say, and I know you don't want me to say this, but I do love business. Like I don't remember the last time I read a book that was not based on business. It is fun for me, Jeff. When I was younger, I used to dress up for Halloween as businesswoman. Like, so boring. Such a boring human. But that's what I used to do. So there you go.
Well, I mean, again, as I was saying before, we get one short crack at this life. If you're going to spend, I don't know, many of the entrepreneurs, 10 plus hours, 12, sometimes more than that a day, some of the people that come on and not enjoy what you do, I would say, reevaluate your situation, because you are spending more time doing that than anything else outside of like breathing. And not just 20 years of that, that's not for me. So if you enjoy what you're doing that much, so much to the point that you were dressing up for Halloween as businesswoman, then I think you are in your calling now, which is very cool. Yeah. Now, I'm a bit of a reader. So again, a little, driving my curiosity a little bit. Got any recommendations for business books?
Ooh, oh my gosh. Dale Carnegie. I just told somebody to buy, the Dale Carnegie book, right?
It's right behind me.
Right. It's really great. Yeah. So, how to win friends and influence people. Mm-hmm. I read that when I was 16 years old, and I've reread it many times, and it still works.
Still good. Oh yeah.
Still works. Mm-hmm. And I just told somebody, they sent me a picture. They're like, I bought it on Amazon. I'm like, great, good. It is one of the best books you can read when you're starting out a business. I think it's what's missed, because in every single business, whether you're creating something, whatever it is, like if you're making a jewelry line, if you are a baker, it's all about relationships, and it's not, it's totally not about manipulating. I think that's where people think that if they go network, they're just going to be sold to, or they have to sell. And it's not that. It's about the planting seeds, not hunting, right?
Connecting. Yes, if you're honestly just trying to connect with people, it's like, for me, it comes down to one very simple thing. What is the mindset that I have going into this experience? If the mindset is, what can I take from this? There are some experiences where that could be valuable, but it's more, for me, certainly what's been more fruitful is, what can I give from this situation? And now I know that I'm not just trying to suck all the value out of you and walk away, because you're probably going to be left with, I'm not getting a good feeling about that guy. It's that old Maya Angelou quote, right? You're not going to remember what you said, what you did, but remember how they made you feel. So that's my goal. And, luckily, the counseling side of it, the marketing side, both rooted in human connection, connecting people together. It's quite enjoyable for me to just hear people speak. I remember Warren Buffett is somebody that I pay a great deal of attention to, and he's been on a few shows. He's been on a few podcasts. He's not the host. He's not the interviewer. But if you get him on your show, you're supposed to be asking him questions. He's going to sit there for 60 to 90 minutes and pepper you with questions to learn as much as he can, and then he walks away. Mm-hmm. So just learning about people, it seems to be a fascinating thing for me. And I think it leaves somebody with, wow, they actually listened to me. They actually gave me the space. They were interested in me, which, if at the very least you can walk away doing that, I think you've made a better connection.
Jeff, you should have been a photographer. That's all we do for a living, is we ask questions. That's what you should have done. Go back to photography school.
Okay, so Dale Carnegie, one more you got for us?
Oh my gosh, I'm not good on the spot like this. Oh no. I love the E-Myth. Like, the E-Myth is such a great book. And actually, it's so funny because Kelly, she was like, somebody recommended this book to me. And I'm like, yes, you need to read this book. It's so good. Kelly Letourneau, who's my business partner at Oklahoma. I'm like, yes. And she's like, have you read it? I'm like, I've read it 4 times. My book is tattered. I won't lend it to you.
Okay.
Good. You've never read the E-Myth?
No.
Oh boy.
Okay, well, there you go. That's why I ask. Another seed planted. Love reading. Big. I mean, I try to talk to my team about it. Like, when they have these questions, have you read this? Have you read that? And just most people won't read, unfortunately. There's this horrible statistic out there. I mean, I'm just reading from the study, but somewhere along the lines of the average adult into their 70s has consumed 3 books voluntarily outside of school.
Wow.
And the best, 3, and often fiction, not nonfiction.
Right.
Like the stats for nonfiction are just not good. And whereas the business leaders that I follow, this whole book a week thing or a book a month or read 10 pages a day type of, like, most of them live this life. And it's the way I look at a book, especially some of the greats, those timeless classics that like Dale Carnegie or, Think and Grow Rich, like 1904.
Don't listen to that one on Audible. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but do not.
Yeah. Read the thing. Just flip through it. Have the thing in your hand. Write some notes. I like listening and reading at the same time. It keeps me focused. But some of the ones that have been around, like ancient philosophy for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, somebody was good enough to live this life of ups and downs, collect all this wisdom, and then put it in a digestible, handheld book for you. It's like, some of the greatest leaders of our time. So that's the way I look at it. Once I tapped into reading, it's significantly changed my life.
That's awesome. I love that so much. I wish I read more. Now I'm going to kick myself and be like, why aren't I reading more lately?
Yeah, for me, it was like any other practice. I got my fitness, I got my spiritual stuff, things that I need to dial me in. And I just allot a certain amount of time to each one of them a day. 30, 40 minutes of reading a day is like 30 bucks a year kind of thing. But I enjoy it. Okay. So we found out what you do for fun, big into nature, big into reading, big into family. Now, is that your Mother's Day choice to go for that? Yes. That's what you want to do on Mother's Day?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. That's awesome.
Jeff, I think we're going to be friends after this.
Well, I am moving to Simcoe, currently in Aurora. I've spent most of my time south of Simcoe County, but it does check all the boxes for me. You got the water, you got a little taste of the city, which I love Toronto for its city aspects, obviously pros and cons. But the sports aspect, the nature aspect, all the skiing, all the snowboarding and skiing that I do is in Simcoe County, and my people are there. There's no longer many people holding me back here in Aurora. So this year, I'm heading out that way. Amazing. Congratulations. Yeah, it's going to be cool.
You'll love it.
Yeah, I do love it out there. It really is a special place. And the people are what really drive me.
Mm-hmm. People will look you in the eye and say hello.
Yeah, and I can walk up and pet their dog without knowing their name and start a conversation that way. Whereas in Toronto, some not, going to Hyde Park, playing with people's pups are pretty cool. But yeah, it's a little bit more reserved.
They have to have their guard up a little bit in Toronto. And I understand that. Yeah. I do. But I do feel like when I lived there, I love the city. Like, don't get me wrong. I love the city. I love to go visit. I really feel filled up when I go for a day. Mm-hmm. But when I lived there, I would walk up Yonge Street going to my job and like I was 19, 20 years old, and I would stare people in the eye and smile, and they would give me the dirtiest look or they wouldn't look at me at all. Yeah. So it's very lonely almost in a way with this very big city. And I'm not saying again, that's all like that, because there's such beautiful, wonderful humans everywhere. Yes. But yeah, there was a little bit of a loneliness there. So that's why I came back here.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a welcoming place, I find here. So let's dive back into the hard stuff. Okay. So we already talked about it a little bit, but this is one of my favorite questions simply because of what we were talking about before. So I think you alluded to it already. If you've mainly talked about it, maybe you could just peel back the layers a little bit deeper into it. We talk about trials and tribulations, hardships on the show, simply because something that I learned over at the addictions facility and certainly been involved in my life, my team's life, is that I think there is still quite a stigma to sharing challenging experiences through our lives. A business failed, a relationship failed, some big body transformation. Like, we let ourselves go. That could be an example of it. We made poor decisions. And then it led us to bumping up against this obstacle, like running into a wall. So I think there's this stigma still out there about if I share my failures, I guess depends on how you define that word, but I could be put on a pedestal for ridicule or embarrassment or judgment. So I will only let you know the very best versions of me. In many cases, even the best versions of me aren't good enough. So I'm going to tweak them a little bit to make them a little bit better. We find that a lot in the social media world, in the digital world. So we want to be a part of kind of encouraging people to delve into that a little bit more, to see the value in their hardships and in sharing them. Because I think that's where the growth is. There's a great book. It's called Anti-Fragile, and it really tells you that the more you stress something, if it eventually breaks, it is fragile. Like the more you hit a piece of glass, it is fragile and will eventually break. Whereas many things in nature, trees, the more stress you put against them, the stronger they get. A muscle, the brain, our body, even our own resilience, our own fortitude, I think requires a good dose of stress, and you will get better through it. So not only do I think it should not be something that should be shamed or suppressed, but something that should be embraced and saddened and maybe even celebrated. So we like to ask the guests on the show, any trials, tribulations, hardships that you're comfortable with sharing that probably sucked in the moment, as hard, that symptom doesn't feel so good. But when you look back in hindsight, you wouldn't remove that ingredient from the recipe that is you, because it's led to you living a life that you enjoy now.
I had a really hard time figuring this one out, this question. Okay, so like, which way do I go with it? I mean, you know where I started. So it was very hard the first few years. It was all about becoming successful in order to have a life for my son. So I think that was the biggest challenge, having my son, losing my dad and then having my son within a 6-month period and being a single mom. It was very, very hard. But I don't know. I think you understand this too, like that I don't really believe in failure. I don't believe in that word. In the way that people think of it, in a negative sense. I talk to my boys all the time about, if you're not failing, you're not doing anything with yourself. You're not growing. And I'm excited when you fail. I'm excited for you that you failed. That's so great. What did you learn from it? And then we talk about what they learned. And then it's not painful. It doesn't have to be painful. So I guess the main challenges I've had in my business are, I'll give you like just an example. Like if a client is unhappy, which is not often, Jeff. Okay. Okay.
I've seen your stuff, Nat. I can imagine that it is not often.
But it happens. And had I not had those challenging moments with a client, I wouldn't have tweaked and learned from that, become a better photographer because of that moment. Changed my contract with wedding clients because of that moment. I don't know, like talk to people differently, because again, I don't have like a specific moment, but I think about like this handful of brides that were just not happy. I shot 568 weddings, and 5 of them, I remember all 5 of them, that they were not happy with their wedding photos. What are you going to do with that? You can't go and redo that day. So all that I can do is try and make things better for them from that moment. I can only try and find out what the actual problem is. So one of the problems with one of the brides was that she didn't find that the images, like it really came down to such a nitty gritty thing. She didn't find that the images were bright enough. Oh, well, I can go back and fix that. No problem. That's an easy fix. Mm-hmm. Or a thing that you can't fix, which is, I'm really unhappy with the photos. Well, why? Because it was raining all day. Well, holy man, I don't change the weather. So it actually became something I changed in my contract. And I review my contract with every single one of those wedding clients to let them know, hey, I don't choose the weather. I can't make it not rainy in your photos when it's rainy. I know that seems like such a silly thing, but it was so helpful to have those moments where somebody was so angry about their photos, like really, truly, like angry. Like, I'm so upset. Why are these photos like this? I'm like, because it rained on your wedding day, because it was black outside. a tree fell. Do you remember that? That tree fell down. But we still got those beautiful moments where you guys were connecting and beautiful and love. Do you want me to brighten those photos up? Yes. Okay, great. Happy client after that. I don't know what else to say other than that every single one of those moments, even having like I had a studio assistant who, not Becky, Becky's awesome, who was just terrible, not a good energy in here, terrible energy. And what did I learn from that? How to hire differently. That's all it came down to. Like, I don't look at it as like a bad scenario that she was here. It just came down to, okay, well, this is now a new, box I need to check when I'm interviewing someone.
Yeah.
That was a rant. Holy, that was a rant.
We love it though. So it seems to me like you believe that there's a certain dose of discomfort that is needed to grow from this conversation. Yes. Okay. So then that leads me into my next question. Do you intentionally inject discomfort into your life? Because I look at it this way. The reason why I ask that is hardship is coming our way no matter what. I look at it as voluntary suffering or life will choose it for you. Essentially, like if I'll just give you the fitness is my background prior to scaling businesses. So I use nutrition. If I eat things that are pleasurable every day for me, I'm going to gain weight. And then life is going to force upon me a level of discomfort that I did not choose through, the challenges that come with obesity or diabetes or brain fog, et cetera, et cetera. I chose pleasure in my day-to-day and life chose my suffering for me. I think there is quite an argument for intentionally choosing your level of hard. And I like to ask entrepreneurs on the show, especially with your level of success, do you voluntarily choose your own level of hard somewhat regularly?
I do. I am an incredibly uncomfortable, introverted person who's around people all the time.
Wow.
It's uncomfortable, right? And at the end of the day, I have to do a little meditation. Sometimes
also not easy.
Yeah, sometimes it's a 4-minute meditation because my children come up and go, "What are you doing?" So that helps me. But going back to the introvert, I was like painfully shy as a child. And when I started my business, I ended up joining a networking group where I had to stand up every single day, every single time I met with them, which was once a week, to tell them who I was, what I was looking for, what kind of business. And it was so uncomfortable for one whole year. Then I got comfortable with it. I ended up joining Rotary. I just felt like I was maybe needing to step into a different kind of group and a different room of people. And again, it took me really probably a whole year to get comfortable with this group of people. But those kind of moments, we all have fear. But we know the kind of fear that's not good for us and the kind of fear that's going to help us grow. We know it intuitively. We just do. Those kind of moments with networking. Oh, this is a perfect example. Kelly, Paula Willimek, and myself we're putting on an event at the Sandbox in Barrie at the end of May. And this event is hard for all three of us because we're all introverted people. So we know that we need some time to get our heads around it. And standing up and speaking in front of people is hard. It's very hard unless you love it. And I wouldn't say I love it, but I love and enjoy the connection and how I can help individuals at the end of the day when I feel like, sorry.
No problem.
Oh, the other one's going. Sorry, Becky. Sorry.
Well, people, Nat is busy. You can tell.
Very
It's a
sorry.
good
But yeah,
thing.
anyways, to round it up, basically that putting myself in front of individuals, as much as I very much enjoy it when I'm there, it's very hard for me to go and do it. Are you
These
the
are
same?
important. Me, are you talking about public speaking in particular,
Public speaking
or
or
just
just
doing hard
being in
things?
a group, like a room of 100 people to network?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not too well versed in the introvert extrovert, but how it's been explained to me is introverts, you put them in a room of people, they have to speak and all that. By the end of that, it's like their energy meter is going down, whereas the extrovert, the energy meter is going up. I'm somewhere in the middle. It really depends on the group of people.
Hmm.
If I find myself with people that I don't connect with, but it's a means to an end, like I have to do this thing for X reason, then I'm going to be going down. And by the end of it, I'm probably going to be drained. This in particular, whether there was one of you or 50 of you, if this was the conversation we would be having, yeah, I mean, I could go for hours. I just love these types of conversations. So if it really is that simple for me, if I find people I align with, then hours just flow by. If I don't dig the character, that's really how I decide whether I fit with somebody or not. It's not their business, their materials. None of that stuff matters to me. It's like who they are at their core. If I'm put off by it, but again, it's important for me to be here, then yes, that will drain my battery for sure. So somewhere in the middle. But I love large groups. I just love good people. You put
Okay.
more good people in a room, then there's just more good.
Right.
That's the way I kind of look at it. And yeah, you always get the, you know, the hit and miss people, or, you know, I've been one of those myself. But yeah, people fuel me when I align with them.
Okay. So I would say you're more of an extrovert then.
Probably. Yeah, I find
If
myself.
somebody calls you at like 3:00 in the afternoon and it's a Saturday and you don't have anything going on that evening, are you saying yes to going out?
You know what? So if you asked me that in my 20s, absolutely.
Okay.
Like, the Saturday nights that I stayed home and I knew things were going on, like that FOMO, that loneliness crushed me. But I recognized that those were insecurities in me that I wasn't working on. And I was looking for external validation in some way to make me feel good about me. Very lucky to bump up against the mentors I bumped up, and went through a number of very challenging things in my life that kind of through necessity forced me to work on myself. So my alone time is no longer lonely time.
Right.
And I schedule my days pretty specifically. So I have it right here, say no so you can say yes. So one of the problems that I had was I said yes to everything. And then that meant less time getting to know me. So if it's scheduled, then I'm not picking up that call. If I have an open time and I can hang out with somebody, then I'm going to say yes. But most of my days are fairly scheduled, most of my evenings. So back to your business a little bit, Nat, especially after all this time you've been doing it. There's photographers that are going to hear this episode. There are consumers of your product that are going to be hearing this episode, entrepreneurs that maybe are looking for what you do. All the information you have from your 21 years plus, if you could distill it down into one or two main takeaways that you would want the audience to know about Nat Caron Photography, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard question.
Sorry. Just one after another. The next one's even harder.
Okay. Do I have a second to think about it?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Okay. Do you edit this podcast a bit?
Oh,
okay.
We like it as real as possible.
All right. What's one thing I would want somebody to think about? 1,
2, 3 takeaways. Like, what is to sum up Nat Caron Photography? What am I thinking in my head about that from your point of view?
I would want individuals to, well, there's one part, like, I guess this part that I would want people to take away the fact that giving back can be a smile on the street. Giving back can be, running a fundraiser. There's all kinds of things. Right? Giving back can be helping somebody walk across the street. There's so many different ways that you can give back. But like ultimate kindness when somebody cuts you off in front of you, instead of being pissed off that that person cut you off, just think, okay, well, they really had to get somewhere. That's it. So an understanding, I guess. But I guess the other part of this is I would want, if people were thinking about Nat Caron photography and coming here and that feeling of being here, I would want them to know that this is such a weird thing to say, and I hope people don't think it's bizarre, but I truly fall in love with every human that walks in the studio. There's an automatic love. Like, really, it's just love. I think that's maybe why I can capture good photos of somebody, because I have my heart fully open for them. And then when I think about them later, I'm like, oh, that was so fun. That was such a great day spending time with, Joe or Julie or whoever. I really do think back to good moments with every single one of my clients. There's the few, but they don't hold a place in my heart. But I would say that on the most part, I just really do fall in love with them. Yeah.
It's quite a takeaway. I would ask, do you think that is a learned skill to be so what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, emotionally connected as soon as they walk through the door? Do you think that was just a part of you from a younger age, just innately a part of you? Did you choose to be that way?
Choose.
Love it.
Choose.
I was really hoping you said that. I'm not a big believer in they were just born this way. It's like, well, then I can't teach myself that if you just were born with these things. And I think maybe there is a handful of people throughout history that were born with a little something extra, the Mozarts, the Michael Jordans, et cetera, et cetera. But I think for the rest of us, if we believe that somebody has something that we can't have, then we won't even try. Whereas what you're talking about, that love for people that walk through your door, I can only imagine the experience they're walking away with. And for somebody else that's listening, like, wow, what kind of impact would that have on her business? Probably significant. What kind of impact would that have on my business? Probably significant. Can I learn that? If they say yes, it change your life.
Yeah. I love that.
Rather than looking at business as a burden or something I have to do, it's like, again, if you love what you do every day and you're, really helping people, giving them something special, I think we do more of what we enjoy. And if we do that, then we end up enjoying it more and more and more. And what a way to live.
Yeah. It also attracts people, right? Like when there's that good positive energy around it. Like how Jeff is right now, that's positive, beautiful energy. It's great. Yeah. We want more of it. Come up to Simcoe County, Jeff. Gosh.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
Last one for you, Nat. Last one. This is my favorite. I don't put this in the questionnaire because some people like to script their answers and we don't want any scripting, right off the cuff, right from the heart. So I only talk about a few things in life in general. Most of them come up in this show. Talk about entrepreneurship and the value in it. Talk about mentorship. Talk about connection, purpose, impact, fitness. This is kind of not really a two-parter, but it started with mentorship. It's going towards impact. I was very lucky to meet with a great mentor. She's still in my life in my early 20s when I was kind of floating around, just being a typical dude, girls, parties, cars, etc. No real purpose, no real direction. And she really encouraged me to think of two things. Think of my impact. Like, what kind of impact have you had on the planet thus far? I don't know. I'm just trying to chill, Come on. What's with the philosophical question? But she really encouraged me to think that way. And in a part of that equation of impact, she encouraged me to remind myself that time is very much out of my hands. To create more time, I can't do that. Something else is doing that, whether you believe in God, universe, whatever it is, something is giving me more time. And there's no guarantee that I will be given more. So she encouraged me to think about my impact up to this point of whatever day, be very intentional about my impact for the day, because it could be my last. And then however long I am here, ultimately, what do I want my impact to result in? So I'm born, I die. What does the middle equate to? So we love to ask the guests on the show, Nat, what would you like your impact to be?
Freaking frack, man. Jeez. One impact. That's it. That's all you have is one impact. You know, this is going to be super selfish, but I think that my impact is that my boys grow up to be kind humans. That's it. So everything that I do is a reflection of what they could become. And that's the only way I can do it. So they're not going to learn from anything I say. It's everything that they're watching me do. Mm-hmm. So if my impact can be on 3 humans that I've raised, that's amazing. That's it.
I love it. And I find it very interesting that you said this comes from a selfish point of view, because I'm hearing this and I've heard this answer before. And I really dig this answer. When I think about what creates a good impact, what could have this positive ripple effect. And if you can help raise 3 different individuals that are going to touch directly, probably thousands of lives, indirectly, who knows, hundreds of thousands, millions of lives. If I put a smile on your face and that raises your energy and you do the same, it could go around the globe a couple of times. Who knows? I think our impact ripples out way beyond our sight of line. That may be the most selfless thing that you could do. You're committed yourself to, that's a lifelong commitment to raising a good individual, the individuals that you can have the greatest impact on. I can certainly have a greater impact on my children than I can have on my team. So I love that answer, and maybe the most selfless thing you can do.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeez, I feel really good after this podcast. I'm going to go buy myself something. I'm kidding.
What's the best way for people to find out about you, Nat? They're digging this conversation. They want to reach out. What's the best way?
The best way is, find me on my email. I love my email because I'm up early doing emails, but also Instagram and LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time there. So Nat Caron Photo, Oklahoma. Oh, I can't even remember what the Oklahoma media. It's such a new business, but Nat Caron Photo. And then also we have an event coming up on May 30th. So they can meet me in person and we can have a chit chat. It's going to be wonderful.
Beautiful. And that's
called
the Sandbox?
It's called the Elevate Summit.
Do we have to buy tickets?
Yes, but it's for women in business, Jeff. I'm so sorry. I know. I'm so sorry. The next one we'll do for everyone.
Include us guys in there. Come on now.
It's so true. We really should. Next time?
Thanks.
100%.
I was really looking forward to this conversation, and you really gave me everything I was looking for. And then some. You're super easy to speak to and to just riff with. And I don't know the whole of your impact on Simcoe County, but 21 years doing what you do, the way people speak about you, I think your reputation precedes you. And this was a blast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I didn't know what to expect, but this was such a great conversation. You're really good at this. You really are such a great, obviously you do it because you're curious, but I'm grateful that Shannon reached out to me and asked me, and I'm glad it all came together. Thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful experience. You have a great day, Nat.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.